What is up, everybody? We are here live with the one and only Mark Herm, Chirp Herm, Chirp the Chip. Like, how many nicknames do you have at this point? I feel like after 5 years, there's probably a million things have evolved.
Yeah, it ebbs and flows. It was Chirp for a while, then it became Chip, and now I think we're back to Chirp, I think. Yeah, but
I like Chirp. I'm soft on Chirp. Like, that was the original for me. Jeff Platt here as well. You guys, welcome to the Q&A. Jump in at any time. You guys can ask questions. If they suck, I probably won't answer them. If they're legit, I'll ask them for sure. And Chirp can answer or not. First off, for those who don't know about you, I feel like I'm even going to say some stuff from memory. I don't even know. Chirp's a sicko on the interwebs. He's been playing online poker for ages. He's got tons of accolades. He's had horses. He's in last year, years before, in the following years, I think he was deeply invested in that crypto game. Like, I don't know. Is there anything that you don't do at this point? What am I missing?
I'm washed up poker player, and then crypto savant, and then I also do a podcast. That's pretty much it. But dating extraordinaire. Dating
huge.
Master of dating. Yeah.
Big time. And actually that's, I think, so the podcast was going on for a while and I was actually disappointed because it seemed like it took a pretty solid hiatus. And I was like, this is, like, everyone loves Joey and I love Joey too. Like, I'm not going to play, but I feel like what Joey really kind of secretly wants to do is what you're doing, which is just like, no holds barred. Let's talk about everything. Like, let's talk about sex, relationships, like, just crazy, like, everything you can possibly imagine, and with a lot of the poker players. So I was kind of depressed I didn't see you. Also, I just want you to know, I just saw you had on Anna Antimony, Chipotle's, I like to just call her that, but I was literally in her Instagram DMs for like a month trying to get her to come on the PokerNews podcast. I could not lock that hoe down. And then I saw her up in your podcast, and I was like, this biatch is like totally ghosting me.
Yeah, you gotta go strong. You gotta make aggressive moves. Yeah. She's funny. She's funny as shit.
Yeah, she's hysterical. And I really tried to get her to do hosting for us on Poker News, but when you work for Poker News, you can't play WSOP events, so that's like always a big downer for most people who actually play.
Oh yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about talk to us about the podcast then, I guess, and its resurgence, if you will.
Yeah, so I like that it's video now. My whole thing is I really don't care at all about poker anymore. My aim of the pod is to kind of penetrate people, you know? I think people want to be penetrated.
I feel like you're like so spot on. Okay.
Yeah, like you want to get to the good stuff, you know? And like that's what I kind of do with everyone. Like if I'm going on like random dates and stuff like that, I'm really trying to get to the core of the person because that's where all the interesting shit is. So that's what I try to do with people. And then on top of that, I also try to get some sort of like successful life tips from people. Like for instance, I had Fedor on and I was like, Fedor, give us some of your life tips because he just crushes at life, and kind of get into what it is that has made these people be successful. I'm into like both of those things. But yeah, now the show's on YouTube. And I really have a good amount of momentum on it right now. So hopefully I can keep up with it. I'm pretty excited about it now.
Along the lines of the show, and Sarah mentioned trying to get Anna on, how in the world did you get Joe McKeon to do an interview? You friends with him?
Yes, yeah, that's why so he's from my neighborhood, or he's from my area, and so me and him always kind of got along. I can kind of understand the guy. Like a lot of people dislike him. He is a bit of a dick, honestly, but I kind of always gave him a little bit of love because I just liked him. I kind of had a soft spot for him. So yeah, that's why he felt comfortable, I guess, coming on. Yeah.
I feel like it was a pretty good interview. Like whenever I see, these extremely rare occasions where he might do an interview, it's like 2 or 3 word answers. But like you said, he seemed relatively comfortable and like he gave you some pretty good insight into him, which I don't think we ever were able to see throughout the course of his World Series run. Would you say that's a somewhat fair assessment of how that interview went?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough with him because, if you're going to get someone to kind of give up the goods, you really have to make them feel safe in a way. You have to make them feel like you're giving them approval for themselves as a human being, you know, and that's not always the easiest thing to do as the host of the show. It requires a lot of kind of like coddling, stuff like that. And it's also, if it's going to be really good, it requires me to ask a lot of uncomfortable questions, quite honestly. So yeah, it can be tough for sure. But yes, I do think that he really came out well. And I had a lot of guys that really didn't like him prior to watching the show and say that they saw like, you know, some positive traits in him or whatever that they had not seen before. So yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want people to see. I want people to see the truth in people because, you know, I think everyone's good deep down.
So in terms of the show now, and I know that you are a true poker player at heart, is there like a legit schedule? Are you doing it like once a week, twice a week, whenever you find something you think is good and interesting?
I'm the furthest thing from a poker player now because I now wake up at like 6:30 a.m. and I have a very scheduled day. And I'm kind of just crushing, honestly. It sounds kind of douchey, but like I feel very motivated with what I'm doing every day. So I do try to keep a schedule. I try to keep it so the momentum is up. So I try to do at least one a week. That's really my hard and fast rule. But you know, it's tough because guys in poker flake all the time. Yeah, but no, I've been pretty good with it. I actually haven't had a ridiculous amount of flaking or anything like that. So yeah, it's been good.
What is a day in the life of Chirp right now like?
So I wake up and I usually will do crypto trading for 2 to 3 hours. Two things. I run a cryptocurrency hedge fund, which, you know, requires lots of trading. And then I also run a business in the crypto space that, facilitates market making. So it's basically we're trading for these different tokens to help them with their token price. So that's kind of complex, but it's basically I do a bunch of trading, and then maybe I'll have a few calls throughout the day. Like today, I just had like 3 business-ish calls. A big thing for me was when I was playing poker for years and years and years, and that's all I had succeeded at. I was really insecure about like transitioning into the real world because I thought I was like, you know, all these people have degrees and they have real jobs and it's really tough out there in the real world. And the reality of it is, when I'm interacting with people that are, you know, have done well in business and stuff like that, I feel like my strengths kind of carry over. And I also don't think it's as intimidating as it was. Like, honestly, like these people aren't like, you know, smarter than you or anything like that. There's actually like, you know, it's pretty normal for there not to be a ton of like ridiculously sharp people out there holding high level jobs. So that was really like a confidence boost for me. Other than that, I've been going to the gym every day. The biggest life secret that I've uncovered the past couple months is I just got a trainer and I just go to him, you know, 4 or 5 times a week. And I have the accountability there that I have to go. And it makes me, for me, I can have mental health issues, blah, blah. It kind of quells all of that shit. And I feel really good. And obviously I'm getting in shape and stuff like that. So that's been huge for me. So I kind of stay busy all day long. And then, I recently got out of a relationship, 3-4 months ago. And then since then I've been it was actually a really tough breakup for me. So since then I've been kind of trying to get back out there and do some dating, which is usually pretty interesting and entertaining. So that'll usually, you know, take up a good portion of my nights.
Dating is really time consuming, but like since you teased it there just a little bit, like let's talk a little bit about what are some of the interesting experiences that you're having out there in this dating world. You know, Jeff's just rejoined the dating pond about a month ago, so we need that tips.
Okay, so here's the thing. With online dating, I'm from Philadelphia suburbs. With online dating in my area, to be totally honest, it's going to be really hard for me to date someone that I feel is someone that I would want to date. Like, it's just really hard to date on your level because there's such an abundance of men out there in my area trying to acquire dates with, you know, attractive females, interesting females, that it's going to be really tough because all they're going off of is like kind of your pictures. And like, I think I'm a decent looking guy, but I don't think that can, if you're really an interesting and competent person, it's hard to convey that on the internet. So I was really going on a lot of dates with people that I did not really care to, you know, do anything further with. So I had this idea, and it's going to sound bizarre, but it's literally the best idea that I think I've ever had.
Oh my God, I can't wait. Pump the brakes.
I'm from Philly suburbs. I changed my location to New York City because just in my head, I was like, there's more females than guys in New York City. There's a lot more interesting people in New York City as a whole. And that's where the interesting people go. So I changed my location there. I'm like, if I can meet a couple girls that like have some good conversation with and stuff, I'll go up there. I'll go up there once or twice a week to see if I can, what happens. So I just did it. And like instantly, like the matches that I was getting, like to be totally honest, like I'm just matching with way more attractive, and it turns out to be way more interesting girls, like an insane amount. Like if I lived in New York City, I could probably go on 5 dates a week with girls that I considered very attractive and, maybe they're interesting. But that's a massive change from what's been going on here. And I'm good. Like I'm good at online dating. I've been doing it for years. I know what to do. I kind of know how to navigate. But in New York City, it's just a complete joke. So I actually started going on a couple dates a couple weeks ago there, and I just like instantly met someone that I like really like. So I'm like now kind of pursuing that. But yeah, that's been my experience with online dating.
This is my full-on theory because everyone I know that lives in Los Angeles, it's like all the girls are dating like the worst guys, and I'm just like, what are you doing? But I feel like the odds are just different. And then they actually just came out with this huge study which showed, because I think for a long time the idea was a little bit mixed up actually, and what it turns out is that 80% of girls, they've showed this now, stats, like they released the Tinder stats, 80% of girls are going for the top 20% of guys, like mostly just based on what they look like, right? But actually they showed that that genealogically speaking and stuff, that for example, confidence and all these other traits that women are more genetically attracted to than just like how someone looks can never be presented in this profile. So you have these like 20% of guys dating these like 80% of girls, and that 20% of guys is actually not that desirable once they like start dating them. And so it's just basically like an entire culture of people like not connecting or like not dating interesting people that they should connect with. And fortunately I've never gotten into that whole thing, and I'm like so sweet baby Jesus grateful that I didn't have to do that. And I'm sorry, Jeff, that you're fixing to be in that. Now before the chat loses its mind because we have completely ignored them for a little while, but I like to do that because otherwise it's just so hard to stay involved in the conversation. Andrew Piper wants to know, how much is the most you have won/lost in one day? And I feel like sometimes people don't know or understand the legitness of some of the players who are so sick online. So I want to give this one to him.
So this is for relating to poker, not
yes, poker.
Okay, so poker. Lost and won. I mean, I'm not like the best example because I never really played nosebleed cash. I mean, I've definitely lost something like 80K in a day playing cash, and winning wise, I mean, I won winning a tournament for, a couple 100,000, 300,000. Cash wise, yeah, I probably like lost 80K, and the most I ever won was probably like 150.
And so for those of us who are involved in that crypto space, let's talk a little bit about what it's been like to actually like maintain through this like really, really difficult dip in the market.
So it was super tough because my net worth it was a wild year. Like we got in a really fortunate time. We got in when Bitcoin was around 700, and we actually invested in a lot of these ICOs, these new tokens, and we got really lucky, right place, right time, hit a few of them where, one was called Icon, and we got in at 12 cents and it went to like $14. Wow. So we all made mistakes. I mean, everyone made mistakes in terms of getting greedy and not taking as much profit as we should. That being said, it's kind of like that's expected because I had no market experience. No one else had any market experience. So that's to be expected. Ended up doing still really well with everything. I was lucky enough to have cashed out a good amount at close to the peak. Definitely nowhere close to what I would have liked to, for sure. So it's for sure been a massive emotional roller coaster. Because the ups was like, we had this one day where this one coin came out, and it was just like my net worth doubled in one day. Like it was insanity. Like it was total insanity. And then everything retracing back down was like super depressing for sure. And now we're kind of at a point where I'm pumped about it all. I love the trading aspect of it all. I'm very confident. I'm very confident, honestly, in what it is that me and my guys are doing in terms of trading, that we're going to be able to beat it no matter what. But in terms of like the whole crypto market, I'm still also confident that it will come back to some degree, to where I think a lot of people will have success and, be winning money again.
For sure. And I think it's really interesting for those of us who weren't super familiar with the market in general. Starting looking at crypto was like this huge lesson in just understanding, like you're talking about market cycles and retracing and all these things that I think, for a poker player, it's very easy to jump on board with and understand, but also because crypto is so volatile and has been so volatile that it's like this really cool exercise in what are these more traditional market, I guess traits and cycles. So are you also like, have you been delving at all into like Forex or other parts of the market as you've started to understand the cycle better, or you're just like balls deep in this crypto life?
No, I'm balls deep in this. I've always been someone to kind of learn by like just doing something. So I've been looking at the markets, every day for the past year and a half, like literally every day for many hours. And I'm kind of just trying to teach myself as I go, with pretty good results now. No, I don't do any other markets. But it's really insane the amount of like psychological similarities there is to someone that would be good at poker and then someone that's good at trading. It's totally exploitation of irrationality and fear, both things. Like, for instance, in poker, let's say you're deep in a tournament, you have a lot of chips, and you know that you can impose fear on someone by getting them to fold hands that they would normally otherwise call with because of the stage of the event or whatever. That's a spot where you're exploiting fear. And then in the market, when it's either up or down, people will make irrational mistakes based on either greed or anxiety. So like, if someone sees something going up a ton, they'll often make a bad decision and choose to buy it at that time because they don't want to miss out, the fear of missing out. And then down, they'll usually make a bad decision in selling because they can't handle the pain anymore. So it's just exploiting those two things, I think, is like the biggest, the biggest fundamental thing in trading.
So to merge all of that, have you specifically seen poker players who look at crypto more as gambling versus how you look at it, and they're just like, shooting for their big score, so to speak, at a certain point?
Yeah, not only poker players, but everyone will do that to a degree for sure. But this is what I've seen with poker guys that have been trying to trade crypto. They're looking at they're honestly, this is going to sound like I'm talking shit, but this is just what I've seen. They're all looking at the wrong things. For instance, with all these crypto projects, they're looking at like the fundamentals of the project when they really have no way of assessing a project, and nor do I. Like I can't assess the technicals of some project, of some company that that's not my specialty. I'm a poker player, or now maybe I'm a trader, but I can't possibly do like the proper research to understand such a thing. So these guys are making these decisions based on really poor logic. And that's only one side of it. They're looking at the fundamental side of the technology of something, when in reality there's so many different sides you have to look at, like the general market cycle, where everything's going, hype, that sort of thing. You have to really be open-minded, I think, to be a really good trader.
So I want to at least like throw to a few of these other questions, which we've got in the chat. For obviously you're a US poker player, right? At this point, you can't play really very much online. And David Rose wants to know, for those that want to play poker online but are in the States, is there anywhere that online poker you think is legit to play? And otherwise, like, how do you recommend getting better at online poker? Or is there anything else you can do besides playing live?
Yeah, good question. Definitely, if you want to really get good at poker, you're really going to have to play online because you can see so many more hands. To answer the question about where to play, Ignition is still a site that is available to everyone that plays other than, I believe, New York, and maybe in Nevada they can't play. Then if you live in Jersey, there's the Jersey sites. If you live in Vegas, there's those sites. And then other than that, everyone can play on America's Card Room. All of them, I think there's absolutely nothing to worry about in terms of legitimacy, in terms of being paid out, in terms of cheating. I wouldn't worry about it at all. And then in terms of getting better, just YouTube stuff. Just go on Twitch and watch these guys that are playing and play a lot, and try. The big thing that I think helped me get good at poker was having a big network of guys that were my friends that I could discuss hands with, for sure. That was like everything, really. And kind of just having an open-minded approach to it, and be willing to try stuff and fail, and then try again and try to like use your experience to learn things, which a lot of people don't do. A lot of people are trying to to like copy and paste someone else's ideas into their game, which is a huge mistake that I see a lot of people make.
And how much poker are you even playing at this point? Like, will we see you at the WSOP? Will we see you at any live events ever again, or am I just gonna have to find you on the internet?
Probably not. I'll be in Vegas. I'll be in Vegas for the World Series most likely because our main office is located in Vegas. So I'll be out there probably. I'll probably randomly play like, maybe a big PLO event or something like that. Other than that, I've been playing very randomly in some private home games if it's, the stakes are somewhat like alluring to me, or it's just people that I like playing with. Sometimes I'll go to the casino and play like, some 80, 160, like limit poker because I like the guys in the game. But no, other than that, in terms of like my passion for the game died many, many, many years ago. So I'm kind of just staying away and doing this stuff, the crypto stuff.
Do you still have horses in the online game? And do you think the online game, like PokerStars specifically, considering there's no U.S. influence on it, has become significantly more difficult?
It's always going to get tougher, right? It's always going to get tougher. My personal opinion of it all was if you stayed up with it and you were ahead of the curve, you're going to continuously beat it for a pretty good number. Even PokerStars and stuff now, like I see the games that are going on. I'm dialed into the game. I still think it's beatable if you're willing to put the work in, 100%. Backing wise, I only back one or two guys and it's almost exclusively live now. Which I'm glad. I'm really glad for, I guess when Black Friday happened, I was probably backing around 40 or 50 guys and it was just extremely stressful. It was extremely stressful for sure. So now, anyone that I back, it's like someone that I really know. It's a good spot. It's easy. It's fun. It's a fun sweat. So yeah, that's my deal with backing.
So you also just recently were on a TV show. This is like another sidebar, extra something, but I was like, this is so boss. And I think really, there's a conversation which actually some people have been talking about in the chat, which I think we should get into, some drama that's been going on in the poker world as of late, which relates to how we get poker, as we're always trying to, into like the mainstream and into the world. And I feel like this is such a just subtle little, like, this is how we get some poker out there. Like, people make real money playing this. Like, people live in nice fancy houses. So talk to us, for those who missed, what's the TV show? How'd you get on there? And also, like, for those who may not be able to see it, like, how'd you get such a nice bougie house?
So the show is called My Lottery Dream Home, and it's on HGTV. It's a very popular show. The show is about people that won the lottery and they now can afford to buy their dream home. Apparently they ran out of people that won the lottery, and the show was doing so well that they started reaching out to some poker players. They actually reached out to my buddy Paul G's, because he had just recently bought a house. He didn't want to do it. He doesn't like the cameras as much as I do. I then called them and said, hey, I got a nice house. I just built this house, designed it myself. I'm a poker player, blah, blah, blah. They're like, cool, send us pictures. They ended up coming out and shooting the show. It took like 4 days of shooting. It was pretty cool. The people, the guy that's the host of the show is like pretty famous dude now, and he was like very down to earth and funny. So yeah, they just, they were asking me about my house. But my house, I was living in this place for a long time that I really hated the energy of, and I was just too lazy to go about like getting a new place. So this house, I decided that I really wanted to, pick everything out about the house, every different bathroom, every floor, designing the whole place. So I did that. It took about a year. It was definitely a draining process, but I'm extremely pumped with how it came out, for sure. And I love my place now. So yeah, it was a good experience.
How do you even do that? Like, with no experience? What are they, just like, these are your swatches? Like, you can choose how do you design a house?
So what happened was I was thinking that I was just going to buy a house. And then around here in the Philly suburb area, there's like really nothing modern, nothing that really drew my attention. So then I had the idea of, okay, I'm just going to pick a lot. And then I ended up finding this house that I'm at right now, and I love the lot. So I just went into it with my realtor. I guess my realtor told me at the time, he's like, it's not going to be that hard. The contractor's going to work with you, and they're going to tell you, they're going to give you options on stuff, right? I didn't really know, but I was willing to try. So I did it. The contractors I ended up working with turned out to be like total scum, which is like kind of like,
standard.
kind of standard, right, kind of standard. So I'm really lucky that the house even got done, but I had the help of a designer, in terms of, picking out what colors went with things. But other than that, I mean, it was a lot of really my own decision making, and it just really wasn't that hard. It seems daunting, but I would just give them my ideas. Like, for instance, the back of my house is a big window wall, and that was like one thing that I knew that I really wanted to have. And I said, hey, is this possible? Can I do this? And, they would tell me what was and what wasn't. And really anything is possible, in terms of what these guys can do. So it's, unless it's like something completely far-fetched, they can do whatever really. So you kind of just have to tell them, and take it step by step. It wasn't that tough.
Oh my gosh, it's so sick. I love it. And you're a poker father. You're a poker daddy. How's that balance coming along for you now that he's becoming a little person?
It's good. I have him 3 days a week. I have a live-in nanny that helps me with him a ton.
Wait, you only have him 3 days a week and she lives there?
Yeah. She's awesome. She just moved here, 3 weeks ago. Her name's Magda. She's from Poland. She's the best. Me and her get along so well.
You have to, because she's there like the other 4 days when he's not there?
Yeah, but it's like we it's not even, it's really not that, I mean, the house is pretty big and it's not like that intense. And I like her. She's like easy to live with and stuff like that. So we talk about lifting and, and whatever. But with him, it's good. It's really tough for me to like keep focus, let's say I have him from 3 till 10 at night, how many of those hours am I really, focused and dialed in on him? It's definitely less than half that I'm like fully dialed into him. It's really tough. But me and him, like, I'm a pretty good dad. Our relationship's pretty good. Like, he's very sweet, very loving. I think I'm pretty loving towards him. And I think that's the main thing that matters. But it's a struggle other than that, because, I really try not to spoil him, but it's sometimes in certain spots, it's just easier to like kind of give into him. But I know that that's like not going to be what's best for him. So that's the thing that I'm struggling with the most now, is kind of, doing what I can to mold him into the sort of person that I feel like my parents kind of molded me into, and like being grateful for things and, not being a spoiled brat and all that stuff. But yeah, I think it's going fine. He has a great mom and we get along great. So I really have a very positive experience.
Yeah. How valuable is it to have such a good relationship with your ex, with his mom?
For someone like me, that I view universally that I should just have him less than she does, because I just think it's less natural for a man, most cases, to interact with kids that are, sub the age of 6, maybe. That's controversial, and that's just what I think. So I don't know what I would do if she was.
That's controversial. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta be careful.
You're so crazy. How dare you?
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's wildly important. I just couldn't. I'm so grateful for her, 100%. I couldn't imagine what it's like to co-parent with someone that you don't get along with, or you have to worry about how they're treating your child. Like, it's just never a thought for me. If anything, it's like, Jesus Christ, I hope I do a good job with him today rather than her. So yeah.
Or who they're bringing around your child, which is like the next like scariest thing, and statistically the most dangerous thing for most kids. Okay, so people be asking about this Daniel Negreanu Twitter drama, which I don't know if you know or pay attention. Essentially, Daniel posted a tweet which said, worst kind of poker player has the following traits: winner, slow, quiet, also miserable, nit, which means cheap and selfish, hater, complainer, negative. If you match all of these categories, you're probably a real treat to have at parties. 2 of the 5 is still bad. The Twitter world more or less erupted, saying, along the lines of like, this is such a kind of morally righteous place to come at the poker world from, and like, it's really just like, you're just preaching at us, and it's just comes off in like such a nasty tone. And then Daniel responded by saying like, okay, that might be fair. Maybe it wasn't the best tone. He wrote a whole article or a blog post about it, kind of explaining more of his thoughts. Have you paid any attention to it? The question is, can the panel like, say what they think about this whole thing? I like that it's a panel.
The panel. Yeah, my thoughts on it is, I mean, Daniel is done a ton for poker, right? I don't see eye to eye with everything he says at all. And in this particular instance, if I was really playing a ton of poker now, I wouldn't give a shit really about how I acted at the table, or what I did to, further poker's growth or anything. I just don't feel like that's my duty. Maybe that's selfish. I just don't care. I would just be going, trying to play, trying to have a good time, trying to make as much money as I can, and that's it. That's what I feel compelled to do. Daniel, on the other hand, has done so much for poker, and he's looking at it in this kind of altruistic way, which more props to him. He it's great what he's done. I'm not looking at it like that. So for him to say that, I think it's right for him, and then also, who is anyone to kind of tell anyone else what to do is just the way I would view it, But yeah, I mean, I think he has a point for sure.
Do you get a sense that all poker players, not all, I should say, some poker players will just always hold this, supernova elite poker stars debacle against Daniel, and they'll just kind of use him as the outlet to express how angry they have been with poker stars, and that they'll always be with poker stars, and because he's their man ambassador, he's just going to get the brunt of that hate?
To be honest, I don't have a full clarity on the picture, but I would say that a ton of their negative emotions probably are coming from a place of jealousy, and then also like a lack of wanting to look at their own side of the street regarding all of that. Like maybe someone is blaming poker stars for the lack of their poker success because they failed to put in the sort of work on their game that they should have. So it's all negative. It's all negative nonsense coming from them, no doubt. And then also, I'm sure Daniel has some sort of responsibility if he's getting a paycheck from poker stars and he's repping poker stars to do everything he possibly can to make it so it's a good place for poker players to play. And I have no idea what he has or has not done regarding all that, but that's what I would say off the top of my head.
So this is like super annoying for me because, me, like I care about talking to people about people and their lives and like what's going on in their lives, like just because they're human beings. And the chat is just being like super annoying about wanting to talk about poker, which is like whatever it is. But something that I do care about in reference to talking about poker is you said that you sort of, your passion for the game disappeared quite some time ago. And I'm interested to hear from you where you think that really came from, or where you just, I mean, I think it's human nature, of course, to just like want change periodically, but what was your experience?
I have some kind of far gone universal views, though. I think we're kind of drawn to things that have the most to teach us at any given time. And I think I probably had a lot to learn from poker, and now I have a lot to learn from other things. But aside from that universal belief, I was doing a ton of drugs during my early poker playing days, where I was drinking a ton and taking a ton of Adderall to play poker. And Adderall is a crazy drug. Adderall, for me,
it's the best.
Yeah.
The worst best. I haven't taken it in like 7 years, but I miss it. It was so good.
Yeah, so I was taking Adderall a lot when I was playing poker, and then when you go back to play poker and you're not taking said drug, it's kind of tough. So I think I probably burnt myself out on poker by playing 80, 90-hour weeks on Adderall when my body really didn't want to and my mind really didn't want to. So that's, I think, how it kind of sped up my lack of passion with it all. But now, I don't do any of that stuff, and I'm happy with where I'm at with it all, and I don't really have any regrets.
You've been sober for ages, right?
Yeah. So I got sober off of drinking in 2011. I actually won a tournament in Vegas in 2015 and drank that night because I kind of had creeping thoughts in my mind, like maybe I can drink again, whatever. Had a crazy night. Drank probably, honestly, I had a fun night. It was wild. Drank probably like 20 beers, went out to the club, woke up the next day, started drinking, popped some Adderall, started playing online poker, like had like a day of online poker where I did really well too, which is like funny because
the worst, because then it just encourages the like demons.
Yeah. I'm pretty lucky though, because I'm not really that motivated by money, honestly. So I'm more motivated by like well-being and stuff, which and passion, which I'm grateful for. So then that was it though. That was just 2 days. I went on a 2-day bender. And And then that was it. That was it for boozing since. Randomly, I've done Molly a few times. I did ayahuasca, actually. I've randomly taken drugs for sure. And it does not feel to me like it's really massively counterproductive to any of my growth or anything like that. So I'm fine with it. But yeah, nothing really intense for many moons.
Well, you mentioned at the top of this that you were basically like the happiest that you've been. You know, maybe you found your balance, so to speak. So what would your just super general advice be to people out there, listeners, viewers right now who are trying to achieve that balance that you seem to have achieved?
This isn't super like basic advice, but for me, this is something that has, and I think everyone has different things that were going to help them in this life. But for me, in the past year, I've been doing a ton of hypnotherapy, and it's just insane to me how much we operate on based on our subconscious mind. And there was I had a ton of, and I'm sure I still have a ton of like subconscious blockages and subconscious fears that were like holding me back from a lot of things. And after doing hypno, I feel like my growth is like exponentially, grown the past year or whatever that I've been doing it, to the point of where it's probably something like 3x any sort of growth that I was doing before in any sort of standard therapy. So that's really my tidbit of like what's been helping me the most. But other than that, I think it's like trying to be confident in yourself, trying to learn, make mistakes, and then just anything that you can do to have confidence in yourself. And then also something that I'm huge on is positivity. And I do a lot of stuff kind of relating to gratitude and the law of attraction that in my mind totally change my perspective on things if I'm doing it, properly and daily and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff helps me a ton.
I'm super curious about hypnotherapy. I actually, from a logistics standpoint, I don't even really understand. So they hypnotize you, and then you sort of like afterwards you'll go through and work through things that came up, and is it, what does it take to actually get to a state of being hypnotized? What does it feel like? Do you remember things?
Yeah. So basically what it is this, you'll get some sort of a countdown, talk down where they'll, the hypnotherapist will, essentially try to get you in a calm meditative state. I've never been hypnosed, or whatever. It's really just like you're meditating calm, but you're still totally there. Like I can just get up and walk out of the room at any time. It's nothing really that intense. But basically if you're going through some sort of issue in your life, some sort of anxiety, some sort of problem, you'll talk about said problem and you'll talk about the feelings that you feel with that problem, emotionally. Sometimes they'll show up in your body. I was feeling anxious, my heart was beating, I was feeling a pressure in my chest. Okay, then they'll take you back to a time when you felt that earlier in your life, oftentimes in childhood. So many things that had happened to me in childhood that I had never put any thought into whatsoever, I realized were just drastically changing the way that I lived my life. For instance, I used to be a bedwetter, and when I probably wet the bed till I was, 13 years old or something like that. And I never realized how much shame I had from being like that, because when I was 13, I thought something about me was intrinsically wrong because I did that. And that's how I analyzed it as a kid. So it's like, it's a moment in time where something traumatic happens to you, and then you internalize it in a way that's really just irrational. So I saw how my life had changed after that point, to where I just kept a lot of shame in me. I would always I would walk into a room and think that I had done something wrong. Like I had all this shame within me. And then when I would go back into hypno and kind of look at that and try to rewire it in a way that wasn't all weird and traumatizing, then it just, where you would have some sort of blockage before, where all of a sudden you feel really free, in a way that you haven't felt in a really long time. So that's kind of the gist of what hypno can give you. Things I've seen is crazy.
I was just like, whoa, his audio is changing so much. Okay, well, we can only keep you for 5 more minutes, but I think this is kind of an interesting thing that I've never considered. Michael asked in the chat, speaking of, poker as a skilled sport, as a professional sport, that poker players are essentially mental athletes. That do you think that drug testing is something that should be done to keep other poker players from having an unfair advantage? For example, using Adderall or something else like that.
No, I mean, just no, because it seems like it would be kind of arduous to do. And I think that you just got to let people make their own, make their own decisions. I'm trying to think of a good reason why not to. And I can't really think of one, just it seems kind of absurd to me for whatever reason.
And wouldn't you say that it's like also infinitely balanced, where like there are certain edges you can get from taking Adderall, but there's also like certain defects that come as a result of it, like for example not sleeping for a super long time, or like being unhealthy overall, or like that it's like for every edge that you get, it's not really the same as like being a fighter who takes steroids or something, like being like a someone who takes Adderall, like you're also, there's definitely like downsides to your mind.
Totally. That's a great point. A great point for sure. Because Adderall probably took me out of poker earlier than I was supposed to leave. And then also, where do you draw the line? You know, maybe someone takes something like,
weed.
What's that? Weed. Yeah. Weed or anything, you know, people. Yeah, for sure. Yes. So I totally agree.
Which is actually always kind of amazing to me, how many poker players smoke weed like just all the time on the regular and manage to get it no matter where we are in the world or what stop we're on. And for me, from my experience of smoking weed before, the last thing I would want to do is go try to, you know, do math and calculate odds and equity and deal with strangers and money and all this. But for some people, it's like, you know, whatever works for you. So I think part of what you're saying too is that like for everybody, it's different. Like for someone's edge might be someone else's.
Right.
falling apart. Okay, so we have to get the show wrapped up, but I want to ask you a couple questions about where we can find more of you. One being, do you know when the show is going to be aired and where? Because I want to watch. 2, where can we find your podcast? And 3, is there any way crypto-wise that our fans or audience, like places and things you recommend, or, you know, ways that if they were interested in getting involved in crypto trading that they could find that?
Yeah. So number 1, the show will be aired on HGTV at some point in March, I was told. And the show's called My Lottery Dream Home. So look for that. 2, my podcast can be found on YouTube. If you just search the Chirp Herm Show, there's about 10 of them up there now. You can find it there. And then 3, in terms of crypto, my advice to someone that's like not fully into it like I am is just buy some Bitcoin and hold some Bitcoin. These levels, in my opinion, are totally fine to just like buy some and just hold it. And that's it. Just buy some and hold it. And I don't think that you need to have a huge portion of your net worth leveraged to crypto, because I think it's kind of binary. At the end of the day, crypto is either going to be a thing or it's not. And if it is a thing, then Bitcoin is going to be worth an extreme amount of money. And if it's not, it's going to be worth 0. So, you know, if you just had like 1 or 2% of your net worth in it, then you could potentially have a huge score off of it.
Then it's like, let's gamble. That's what I say. Just a little bit, like enough that I can lose it, but like, yeah. I, for one, am really hoping, and I'm so grateful. It's always so good to catch up with you. And if you are at the WSOP, you better find me. We better catch up again. Do something more. I appreciate it. Thanks. I really appreciate Benjamin joining us, and some other people, mostly Boris, Asif. Like, people just like blow my mind, but stayed here the whole time for somehow. But you're just like one of my faves. You know it. Give your baby big, wet, anti-Chardonnay kisses, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Sweet. Ditto. Thanks, guys.
Deuces.
Thanks,